Just like in segments, angles are reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. We have the congruent supplements theorem that says, hey, if two angles are supplementary to the same angle like we have here, we know those two angles are congruent. So if angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, and angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary, then I know angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 by the congruent supplements theorem. Congruent supplements theorem has a name, so we don't have to do the abbreviation. We'll just use that. Okay, congruent complements theorem, same thing. It says that, hey, if I have two angles that are complementary to the same angle, those two angles have to be congruent. And if I take a look at a vertical angles theorem, which we used extensively in Chapter 2, we know vertical angles have to be congruent. So if I got vertical angles, I know angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, 2 is congruent to 4. That's a simple one to use. Anytime you have two lines crossing, I know those two angles are congruent. So let's do a proof here. Once again, we're not going to do the whole proof, at least not yet. We're going to do parts. I know angle ABE and DBC, they're right angles. And they're marked for us on the diagram. Notice that. And then I want to prove ABD is congruent to EBC. That's what I want to get. I'm not going to mark that yet. Now, when I start my proof, step 1, I'm going to write down my given. What do I know because of my given? Notice I've got a vocabulary word here. Right angles. I'm going to use that definition of right angles. The definition of right angles tells me they're 90 degrees. So I'm going to say definition of right angle. Then notice I'm going to add these two angles up, and I'm going to say they're complementary. Now, why do I know that? Why do I know ABD and DBE are complementary? Well, I know if I add these two angles up, they equal 90, and I know two angles that add to 90, they're going to make it a right angle. So I'm going to say definition of complementary, because I know they add to 90 degrees. Then I notice in both statements of step 3, I've got DBE. So in other words, I've got two angles that are complementary to the same angle. Well, if I got two angles that are complementary to the same angle, I know those two angles have to be complementary by the thing we just learned, their congruent complements theorem. And we're done with our proof. I've just proved what I want to prove.